The people who change your life rarely arrive the way you expect. The ballroom glittered like a field of stars beneath 1,000 crystal lights. Everywhere I looked, people were smiling. Champagne glasses caught the glow of chandeliers. A string quartet played softly from a raised platform near the center of the room. Men in tailored suits moved through conversations worth more money than I would probably earn in a decade. Women in elegant evening gowns laughed beneath towering floral arrangements. It felt like a different world, a world I did not belong in. I adjusted the borrowed navy blue dress and tried not to look as uncomfortable as I felt. My best friend had won 2 charity gala tickets and convinced me to come when her husband was suddenly called out of town. She promised it would be fun. So far, I mostly felt invisible, which normally would have been fine. I taught 3rd grade. My life revolved around lesson plans, science projects, and helping 8-year-olds remember where they left their backpacks. I was not built for luxury events attended by celebrities and billionaires. I picked up a glass of sparkling water from a passing server and moved closer to the edge of the ballroom. The city skyline stretched beyond enormous windows. Manhattan shimmered against the night sky. The view was breathtaking. For a moment, I forgot about everything else. Then my fingers brushed against the object hidden inside my purse. The necklace. My stomach tightened instantly. Earlier that afternoon, I had found it on a park bench while walking home from school. I waited nearly an hour hoping someone would return for it. Nobody did. It looked old, valuable. The silver chain supported an unusual pendant decorated with intricate patterns I did not recognize. I planned to turn it into lost and found the next morning. Yet something about it kept pulling my attention back. I opened my purse slightly and glanced at it again. The pendant reflected the ballroom lights in strange ways, almost as if tiny pieces of history were trapped inside the metal. Beautiful, isn't it? A voice asked beside me. I looked up. An older woman smiled warmly before continuing toward another group of guests. I looked back down. The necklace seemed ordinary again. Maybe I was imagining things. A server offered another tray of drinks. I politely declined. Suddenly the room felt warmer than before. The music sounded distant. I blinked several times. My vision struggled to focus. Strange. I had eaten dinner. I had not consumed alcohol. Yet an unexpected wave of dizziness swept through me. I reached for the edge of a nearby table. The sensation passed briefly, then returned stronger. My heartbeat echoed inside my ears. Around me, conversations continued. Nobody noticed. Why would they? To everyone else, I was just another guest standing quietly near the windows. I took a slow breath. Then another. The ballroom lights blurred into soft circles of gold. My fingers tightened around my purse. The necklace pressed against my hand through the fabric. Somewhere across the room, laughter rose above the music. Somewhere above the ballroom, behind a private balcony overlooking the event, a man watched the crowd with calm, unreadable eyes. I never saw him. Not then. The floor shifted beneath me. My knees weakened. The glass slipped from my fingers. A few guests turned as it struck the marble. I tried to steady myself, tried to take one more step. Instead, the room spun completely. The last thing I remember was clutching the necklace against my chest as darkness closed around me. Far above the ballroom, the powerful man stepped forward and looked directly toward where I had fallen. The conversation around him stopped. Then he gave one quiet order. Bring her to me. The first thing I noticed was silence. Not complete silence. The kind that exists inside expensive places where every sound feels carefully controlled. I opened my eyes slowly and stared at a ceiling covered in soft recessed lighting. For several seconds, I could not remember where I was. Then fragments returned. The ballroom, the necklace, the dizziness, the fall. My heart immediately accelerated. I pushed myself upright too quickly and regretted it. The room tilted for a moment before settling again. A large window stretched across one wall, revealing Manhattan glowing beneath the night sky. The view alone looked worth more than my entire apartment. You should sit still for another minute. The voice came from across the room. Deep, calm, certain. I turned my head. A man stood near a fireplace holding a glass of water. Dark suit, perfect posture, quiet confidence. He did not look like someone who entered rooms. He looked like someone rooms adjusted themselves around. Who are you? I asked. He crossed the room and placed the glass on a nearby table. Damien Rousseau. The name landed heavily. Even I knew that name. Everyone in New York knew it. Newspapers discussed his business empire. Magazines photographed him at charity events. Rumors followed him everywhere. Some called him a businessman. Others described him differently. Nobody ever seemed completely sure where the truth ended and the stories began. "I am Olivia," I said quietly. "I know." Something about that answer made me nervous. Damien pulled a chair across from me and sat down. Not aggressively. Not casually. Deliberately. "The doctor examined you." "Doctor?" "You became lightheaded and collapsed." I remembered. Embarrassment immediately followed. "I am sorry." One corner of his mouth moved slightly. "For what?" "Causing a scene." "You did not." His answer arrived so quickly that I almost laughed. The ballroom would disagree. The ballroom recovered. I stared at him. For the first time, I understood why people described him as intimidating. Not because he raised his voice. Not because he demanded attention. Because he never seemed uncertain. Ever. Then I remembered the necklace. My hand immediately moved toward my purse. It sat on a nearby chair exactly where I had left it. Relief flooded through me. "Looking for something?" Damien asked. "Just checking." I reached inside and found the silver necklace. Still there. Still safe. Yet the moment I touched it, Damien's eyes shifted. Just slightly. Most people would not have noticed. I did. "What?" I asked. "May I see it?" His voice remained calm. The request felt simple. Somehow it was not. I hesitated before placing the necklace in his hand. The pendant reflected the firelight as he studied it. For the first time since waking up, genuine surprise crossed his face. It lasted less than a second. Then it disappeared. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "I found it yesterday." His gaze lifted toward mine immediately. "Where?" "Central Park." Silence settled between us. Damien turned the pendant over. His thumb brushed against the back surface. Then he froze completely. I watched his expression change. Not fear. Not anger. Recognition. Slowly, he handed the necklace back. "That is impossible," he said quietly. "What is?" For several seconds he said nothing. Then he stood and walked toward the window overlooking the city. "Because this necklace belonged to someone who disappeared 10 years ago." My stomach tightened. Damien looked back at me, and for the first time, the calm certainty in his eyes had been replaced by something else. Questions. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. The city lights stretched beyond the penthouse windows like a sea of gold and silver, but my attention remained fixed on the necklace resting in my hand. Damien's reaction had changed everything. Until now, it had simply been a lost item I planned to return. Suddenly it felt like something else entirely. "Who did it belong to?" I finally asked. Damien remained near the window, one hand resting in his pocket. The firelight cast soft shadows across the room. "A woman named Isabella Hale." The name meant nothing to me. Was she a friend? His eyes moved toward the necklace again. Not exactly. That answer only created more questions. Then who was she? Damien was quiet for a moment. I had already learned that silence often meant he was deciding how much to reveal. 10 years ago, Isabella attended an event very similar to the one tonight. My fingers tightened around the pendant. "Here." He nodded. "The same venue. The same ballroom." A chill moved through me. "What happened?" "Nobody knows." His voice remained calm, but there was something different beneath it. Something personal. "She left the event early. After that, she disappeared from public life." I frowned. Completely. Completely. The answer lingered between us. In an age of social media and constant visibility, disappearing completely sounded almost impossible. And nobody ever found her. Damien looked toward the skyline. "No." I stared at the necklace. The silver pendant suddenly felt heavier than before. "Then how did it end up on a park bench?" "That is exactly the question." A quiet knock interrupted the conversation. The penthouse door opened, and a woman in a dark business suit entered carrying a tablet. She moved with the confidence of someone accustomed to handling important matters. "Mr. Russo." Damien turned. "What is it?" She handed him the tablet. "You asked us to search archived event photographs from 10 years ago." Damien glanced through several images. Then he stopped. His expression sharpened immediately. "Show me." The woman enlarged one photograph. Even from across the room, I could see a crowded ballroom filled with guests. Damien studied the image carefully before looking toward me. "Come here." I crossed the room and looked at the screen. At first, I saw nothing unusual. Then I noticed the woman standing near the center of the photograph. Blonde hair. Elegant evening dress. A silver necklace hanging around her neck. My breath caught instantly. "That is it." Damien nodded. Yes, there was no doubt. The pendant in the photograph matched the one resting in my hand. Every detail, every curve, every engraving. The same necklace. Wait. I leaned closer. Can you zoom in? The assistant adjusted the image. The woman became clearer. So did the people standing around her. One of them immediately caught Damien's attention. I saw it happen. His eyes narrowed slightly. You know him? I asked. Damien did not answer right away. The assistant looked equally surprised. Finally, Damien set the tablet down. I know exactly who that is. Something in his voice made my stomach tighten. Who? He looked directly at me. Someone attending tomorrow night's private reception. Silence filled the room. Then he added 4 words that changed everything. And he requested you personally. Sleep should have come easily that night. It did not. I spent hours staring at the ceiling of the guest suite Damien had arranged for me, replaying every detail of the conversation. The necklace, Isabella Hale, the photograph, and most of all, the man attending tomorrow night's reception who somehow seemed connected to all of it. By morning, Manhattan was covered in pale sunlight. The city looked calm. My thoughts were not. Shortly after breakfast, Damien invited me to join him in a private conference room overlooking the river. Several members of his senior staff were already there. Large screens displayed photographs, event records, and archived guest lists. The atmosphere felt focused, professional. Nobody seemed surprised that I was present. Damien entered last. The room immediately became quieter. He took a seat at the head of the table and looked toward one of his advisors. Show her. The screen changed. A photograph appeared. The same image from 10 years ago. This time the focus centered on the man standing beside Isabella Hale. He looked distinguished. Mid-50s. Expensive suit. Confident smile. Someone accustomed to being important. His name is Richard Ellsworth, the advisor explained. Philanthropist. Investor. Board member for several charitable foundations. Nothing about him seemed suspicious. And he requested me? I asked. Specifically. Damien's answer was immediate. Yesterday afternoon. My stomach tightened. But he does not know me. That is what concerns me. The room fell silent. Another image appeared on the screen. This one was recent. Richard Ellsworth attending events, giving interviews, shaking hands with public officials. His life seemed entirely normal. Yet something about the timing felt wrong. What if it is a coincidence? I asked. One of the advisors exchanged a glance with another. Damien leaned back in his chair. I do not believe in coincidences this large. Neither did I. Not anymore. The meeting continued for another hour. They reviewed old records connected to Isabella and the gala where she had last been seen publicly. Most of the information raised more questions than answers. Then one detail caught my attention. Wait. I pointed toward a guest registry displayed on the screen. What is that? The advisor enlarged the document. A handwritten note appeared beside Isabella's name. Just 2 words. Private meeting. Who was she meeting? I asked. No one knew. The record ended there. Yet somehow those 2 words felt important. By evening, preparations for the reception were underway. Staff moved through the venue adjusting decorations and finalizing seating arrangements. I stood near a balcony overlooking the ballroom below. The same ballroom where everything had started. Damien joined me quietly. You do not have to attend tomorrow. I looked at him. You think I should leave? I think you should have a choice. The answer surprised me. Most people in his position would have made the decision themselves. Damien never did. Not with me. I looked down at the necklace resting in my palm. I want answers. His expression softened slightly. I thought you might. The city lights began appearing beyond the windows as sunset faded into evening. For a few moments, neither of us spoke. Then my phone vibrated. An unfamiliar email notification appeared on the screen. No sender name. No subject line. Only a single attachment. My pulse quickened. I opened it. The file contained a scanned letter dated 10 years earlier. At the bottom sat Isabella Hale's signature. Above it was one handwritten sentence. I read it once. Then again, because the final line changed everything. Richard Ellsworth knows where the necklace belongs. The email stayed open on my phone long after the screen should have gone dark. Richard Ellsworth knows where the necklace belongs. The sentence followed me everywhere. Through dinner. Through the elevator ride back to my suite. Through another sleepless night spent staring at the city beyond the windows. By morning, the reception day had arrived. The entire building seemed to move with quiet precision. Staff members adjusted seating arrangements. Security teams reviewed schedules. Guests began arriving hours before the official event. Everything looked polished and effortless. Underneath, tension hummed like an invisible wire. I sat at a small table in Damien's private lounge, turning the necklace slowly between my fingers. The silver pendant reflected the morning light. It looked harmless, ordinary, yet somehow it had connected a missing woman, a decade-old mystery, and one of the most powerful men in the city. You are thinking too loudly. I looked up. Damien stood in the doorway holding a cup of coffee. Is that possible? He handed me the cup. With you, apparently. Despite everything, I smiled. The warmth surprised me. So did the fact that it felt natural. Damien sat across from me. My team traced the email. My attention sharpened immediately. And nothing. I frowned. Nothing. It was routed through multiple servers. Whoever sent it did not want to be identified. That answer should have been disappointing. Instead, it confirmed something important. Someone was helping us. Carefully. Deliberately. Do you think the sender is connected to Isabella? I asked. Damien considered the question. Possibly. Or Richard. Also possible. Neither answer helped much. The hours passed quickly. By late afternoon, guests filled the reception halls. Through the lounge windows, I could see elegant dresses, tailored suits, and clusters of influential people engaged in polished conversation. Then Damien's phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen. His expression changed slightly. He is here. My stomach tightened. Richard. Damien nodded. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then he stood. Come with me. We entered a private observation room overlooking the reception floor. Below us, hundreds of guests mingled beneath crystal chandeliers. Damien pointed toward a group near the center of the room. I found Richard immediately. He looked exactly like the photographs. Confident, distinguished, comfortable. Yet something unexpected happened the moment he entered the ballroom. His eyes scanned the crowd once, twice, then stopped, directly on me. Even from across the room, I knew he recognized the necklace. His expression froze for a fraction of a second before recovering. He knows, I whispered. Damien did not look away from the floor below. Yes. Richard excused himself from his conversation and moved toward a quieter corner of the ballroom. Almost immediately, one of Damien's advisors entered the observation room carrying a tablet. Mr. Russo. Damien turned. What is it? The advisor looked surprised. We just received another message. My pulse quickened. From the same sender? Yes. The tablet screen displayed only a single sentence. No greeting. No explanation. Just 7 words. I read them once. Then again. Because suddenly everything made sense. Meet Richard before midnight. He has been waiting 10 years. The message changed everything. Meet Richard before midnight. He has been waiting 10 years. I stared at the screen while the sounds of the reception continued below us. Music. Conversation. Laughter. The world carried on as if nothing unusual was happening. Yet my pulse would not slow down. Damien took the tablet from the advisor and read the message himself. His expression revealed nothing. Whoever is sending these knows too much, I said quietly. Agreed. He handed the tablet back. But they have not been wrong yet. That was the unsettling part. Every clue had led somewhere real. The necklace. Isabella. Richard. None of it had been random. Damien looked toward the ballroom floor below. Richard Ellsworth remained near a cluster of guests, smiling politely, appearing completely relaxed. Do you trust him? I asked. No, the answer came immediately. Do you think he is dangerous? Damien was silent for a moment. I think he knows something important. Somehow that felt worse. An hour later, the reception reached its busiest point. Guests filled every corner of the grand hall. Crystal chandeliers reflected across polished marble floors. Servers moved through the crowd carrying trays of sparkling water and desserts. Everything appeared elegant and effortless. Yet I could feel tension beneath the surface. Damien stood beside me near the entrance to a private lounge overlooking the ballroom. Several members of his staff remained nearby, not because he ordered them to, because they always seemed to know where they were needed. You do not have to do this, he said. I looked up. Meet Richard. He nodded. You can walk away from all of it. I glanced down at the necklace resting against my palm. A week ago I had been worrying about lesson plans and parent conferences. Now I was standing inside a mystery that somehow connected strangers across 10 years. I need answers, I said. Damien studied me for several seconds. Then he nodded once. I thought you would. We waited until shortly before midnight. Richard gradually separated himself from the larger crowd and moved toward a quieter terrace overlooking the river. The moment he stepped outside, Damien looked at me. "Stay close to me." There was no arrogance in the statement. No attempt to control me. Just certainty. Protection. I realized then why people followed him so easily. He never wasted words. We crossed the ballroom together. Conversations seemed to pause as Damien passed. Nobody stopped him. Nobody questioned him. The terrace doors opened. Cool night air drifted inside. Richard stood alone beside the railing, watching the city lights reflect across the water. He turned as we approached. For the first time all evening, his confident smile faded. His eyes went directly to the necklace. "I was wondering when it would find its way back," he said softly. Every sound around me seemed to disappear. "Back to where?" I asked. Richard looked at me with an expression that felt strangely sad. Then he reached into his jacket and removed an old photograph. Isabella Hale smiled from the image. Around her neck hung the same necklace. Richard handed me the photograph carefully. "Because that necklace was never meant to be lost," he said. "It was meant to lead someone to her daughter." Silence crashed over me. I stared at the picture, then at Richard, then back at Isabella. My heart stopped for a single impossible moment. "Her daughter?" I whispered. Richard nodded slowly. "Olivia, there is something about your family that nobody ever told you." The night air suddenly felt colder. Richard's words echoed through my mind while the river lights shimmered beyond the terrace railing. "Your family. Nobody ever told you." I stared at him, waiting for the rest. Part of me wanted him to continue immediately. Another part was afraid of what I might hear. Damien remained beside me. Quiet, watchful, present. "What are you talking about?" I finally asked. Richard looked at the necklace in my hand before answering. 10 years ago, Isabella Hale was one of the most respected women I knew. Intelligent, kind, determined. His voice softened slightly. She cared deeply about people. And my heart would not stop racing. Richard exhaled slowly. "And she spent years searching for someone." The answer surprised me. "Someone?" He nodded. "A child." For several seconds, I simply stared at him. The city noise faded into the background. "I do not understand." Richard reached into his jacket again and removed a thin envelope that looked worn from age. "You deserve the truth." Damien stepped slightly forward. Not threatening, not aggressive, simply protective. Richard noticed and offered a small smile. "I am not here to cause problems." "Then tell her what you came to tell her," Damien said calmly. Richard handed me the envelope. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside was an old photograph. A woman stood beside a younger Isabella Hale. They were smiling. Behind them was a small community center decorated for a holiday event. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then I looked closer. The woman beside Isabella looked familiar. Very familiar. My breath caught. "That is my mother." Richard nodded. "Yes." Everything inside me froze. I looked again. There was no mistake. The smile. The eyes. The way she held her hands. It was her. My mother knew Isabella? Richard's expression softened. They were close friends. Suddenly dozens of childhood memories resurfaced. Stories my mother used to tell. Mentions of a woman named Bella. Holiday cards that stopped arriving when I was young. Questions I never thought to ask. Why did nobody tell me? I whispered. Richard looked toward the river. Because after Isabella left public life, many people respected her wish for privacy. Damien folded his arms. Privacy is one thing. 10 years of silence is another. Richard nodded slowly. You are right. The honesty surprised me. He turned back toward me. The truth is simpler than you think. He pointed toward the necklace. That pendant was created for a family foundation Isabella established years ago. She intended for it to pass to someone she trusted completely. I stared at the silver pendant resting against my palm. My mother? Yes. My eyes widened. Richard smiled gently. And after your mother passed away, Isabella updated her instructions. My pulse accelerated again. Instructions? Richard reached into the envelope and removed one final folded document. The paper looked old but carefully preserved. My name appeared across the front in elegant handwriting. Olivia Bennett. The sight stole my breath. That cannot be possible. Richard nodded toward the document. Open it. Slowly, I unfolded the paper. The handwriting inside was beautiful, precise, familiar somehow. I read the first sentence once, then again, because the woman who vanished 10 years ago had written a letter directly to me. And the very first line began with 6 words that changed everything. If you are reading this, Olivia, then we have finally found each other. My hands shook as I held the letter beneath the terrace lights. The elegant handwriting seemed almost unreal. 10 years. 10 years of questions, rumors, and silence had somehow led to a single piece of paper addressed directly to me. Damien remained beside me while Richard stepped back, giving me space to read. I took a slow breath and focused on the first paragraph. Isabella's words felt warm, personal, familiar. She wrote about my mother first, about their friendship, about shared dreams and long conversations that stretched late into the night. Every sentence sounded genuine. Then I reached the section that changed everything. Isabella explained that years earlier she had established a charitable foundation dedicated to helping children access education and community support programs. My mother had helped her build it from the beginning. Together they created projects that quietly improved lives across several cities. As I continued reading, my eyes filled with tears. Not from sadness, from recognition. The values she described were the same values my mother had taught me growing up. Kindness, responsibility, service. Suddenly, I understood why my mother had admired Isabella so much. They believed in the same things. Keep reading, Richard said softly. I nodded. The next section explained why Isabella stepped away from public life. There was no scandal, no crime, no dramatic disappearance. Instead, years of constant public attention had left her exhausted. She wanted a quieter existence. She wanted the freedom to continue helping people without headlines following every decision. So she left. Not forever, just publicly. Richard looked toward the river. Very few people knew the truth. Damien folded his arms. Why hide it? Richard smiled faintly. Because sometimes privacy is the only luxury money cannot buy. The answer surprised me. It also made sense. I returned to the letter. The final pages contained detailed instructions regarding the foundation. Isabella explained that after my mother's passing, she continued monitoring the programs they built together. She also explained the purpose of the necklace. It was never a piece of jewelry. It was a symbol, a reminder of the foundation's original mission. The person carrying it would inherit the responsibility of protecting that mission. I looked up slowly. She chose me. Richard nodded. Years ago. But she did not know me. She knew your mother. His answer landed gently, and she trusted her judgment. Silence settled around us. The city lights shimmered beyond the terrace while everything finally began connecting. The necklace, the emails, the photographs, the mysterious clues. None of it was about wealth. None of it was about power. It was about trust. Then Damien's phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen before looking toward Richard. You should probably tell her the rest. My pulse quickened. The rest. Richard smiled. This time there was relief in his expression. Isabella is not missing, Olivia. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. What? She is alive. The world seemed to stop. Richard reached into his jacket and removed a small card. An address was written across the front. Upstate New York. Less than 3 hours away. She has been waiting for the right moment. My eyes widened. Waiting. Richard nodded. And after tonight, she would like to meet you. I stared at the address in complete disbelief. 10 years of mystery had finally produced an answer. Yet somehow the biggest revelation was still waiting for me at the end of the road. 3 days later, I stood beneath a bright autumn sky staring at a white farmhouse surrounded by golden maple trees. The drive from Manhattan had taken less than 3 hours, yet it felt as though I had crossed into another world entirely. No towering buildings, no crowded streets, no flashing cameras, just rolling hills, quiet fields, and the sound of wind moving through the trees. The necklace rested against my chest beneath a light sweater. Damien stood beside me near the front gate. Neither of us spoke. We did not need to. Every step of this journey had led here. Finally, the front door opened. A woman stepped onto the porch. For a moment, nobody moved. She looked older than the photographs. Of course she did. 10 years changes everyone. Yet I recognized her immediately. The same kind eyes, the same warm smile, the same presence that seemed to calm the world around her. Isabella Hale. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. She slowly walked toward us. Tears filled her eyes before she even reached the gate. Olivia. Hearing my name in her voice made something inside me break open. Not painfully, gently, like a door finally unlocking after years of being closed. Hello, I whispered. Isabella laughed softly through her tears. I have imagined this moment so many times. I did not know what to say, so instead, I stepped forward and hugged her. She held me tightly, not like someone greeting a stranger, like someone welcoming family. We spent the afternoon together inside the farmhouse. Isabella shared stories about my mother that I had never heard before. Stories about kindness, courage, quiet acts of generosity, moments that made me laugh and cry at the same time. For the first time since losing my mother, I felt connected to a part of her life that had been missing. The foundation continued to operate successfully. The programs she and Isabella built still helped families across the country. And now Isabella wanted me involved. Not because of obligation, because she believed I could help carry the mission forward. As the afternoon sunlight faded, we stepped outside onto the porch. The countryside glowed beneath shades of gold and orange. Damien stood nearby speaking with Richard. They looked relaxed for the first time since this entire journey began. Isabella smiled toward them. He cares about you. I glanced toward Damien. He helped me. Isabella laughed softly. That was not what I said. Warmth rose to my cheeks. Before I could respond, Damien looked up and caught my eye. For a brief moment, neither of us looked away. There was no need for grand declarations. No dramatic promises. Just understanding. Trust. The beginning of something neither of us had expected. As the sun disappeared beyond the hills, I thought back to the night everything started. A crowded party. A mysterious necklace. A moment that seemed random. It was not random at all. Sometimes life changes because of a choice. Sometimes because of a coincidence. And sometimes because people leave behind kindness powerful enough to guide others long after they are gone. I arrived searching for answers about a necklace. Instead, I found a missing piece of my family, a purpose larger than myself, and a future I never imagined. Beside me, Damien smiled as the evening light settled across the fields. And for the first time since that unforgettable night, I knew exactly where I belonged.